Good afternoon, students. How are you? How is today? Yeah, this is Dr. Ajidani S. Moses, the course lecturer of ECO111, Principles of Economics 1. Um, we start this lecture by giving a definition of economics as given by so many economists. Well, it is important to know that economics has no single sentence definition. It is defined differently by different people. For instance, Adam Smith defined it differently. John Stuart Mill, Karl Marx, Alfred Marshall, and of course, the popular, Robinson. For instance, Adam Smith defined economics as an inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of nations. Alfred Marshall, on his own, described economics as a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. John Mill looked at economics as the practical science of production and distribution of wealth. But of particular interest to note is the definition of economics by Professor Robinson, which states that economics is the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means, which have alternative uses. The Robinson's definition of economics generally accepted because it covers some basic concepts in economics, including ends, that is human wants, desire or needs, and scarce means, which refers to inadequate resources to satisfy the ends, and the alternative uses, which means that the scarce resources can be put for different purposes. And therefore, we can conclude that from the definition by Robinson that available resources are scarce relative to human wants. And so, choice has to be made in order to derive maximum satisfaction out of the available scarce resources. And that is the essence of why we study economics. Basically, economics is a social science subject, because it deals with various aspects of human behavior in the area of production, distribution, and consumption. But I want to also emphasize here that students can define economics on their own. For instance, if a student defines economics as a science of choice, yes, that is correct. If a student defines economics as a science of production, another one defines economics as a science of consumption, they are all correct. And so there is no universally accepted definition of economics. So economics can be also regarded as a science because its study adopts scientific method, including hypothesis, collection of data, analysis of data, and conclusions, as well as generalization of theories. Just like pure sciences conduct their research, and that's how economics also conduct their researches. There are many importance. Economics is important in many respects. For instance, an individual is assisted in understanding the decision of households. It enables us to know the decision of household issues. It assists business outfit in understanding the financial sector, the impact of government decision making on their business and latest development in business society and the global economy. It also teaches the concept of relative scarcity. Economics teaches us what the concept of scarcity is all about. Scarcity means the resources are not enough. It's not that the resources are not there, but the available resources are not enough to meet the individual wants. It also teaches how these decision-making processes affect individual society and the global economy. There are many questions which economic science has to directly deal with, and with reference to which it may work of collecting facts, of analyzing them, and of reasoning about them should be arranged. Okay? It is an approach in understanding behavior that starts from the assumption that people have objectives and tend to choose the correct ways of achieving them. Meanwhile, introspection, or rather a self-examination, does not enable Mr. A to measure what is going on in Mr. B's mind. Okay, so there are so many importance of economics. In other words, economics is important in so many respects. Now let us talk about basic concepts. Earlier, I mentioned that choice has to be made when you want to apply the scarce resources between the numerous ones. Okay, and so choice has to be made. What we mean by choice is picking out of alternatives. First of all, we will know what is wants. Want may be defined as insatiable desire by human being to own goods and all services that give satisfaction. Then the wants in economics, we say that wants are numerous. They are numerous. You cannot count your wants. Okay, but we have to choose or have to pick the wants in order of importance. And so, for instance, if biro is important for you as a student, it should be in rank number 1. Next, books. Next, so many other choices or so many other wants. And so, when you pick your wants and arrange them in order of importance, we call it scale of preference. Then choice is the art of picking the best out of several alternatives. With regard to human wants, choice is the art of selecting wants to satisfy first and which to satisfy last. And this also depends on two factors. One, the importance of that wants to you, and two, your ability to satisfy the ones you have chosen. And so the ability depends on the resources available. And therefore, sometimes we have two pressing wants, but the resource you have is not enough to satisfy them. You have to choose the one that your resource can satisfy. Opportunity cost. By the time you pick one once and forgo the other, the one you have forgone is called opportunity cost. And then the money you use to buy the other one you have chosen is called money cost, or the real cost. Sometimes some economists are arguing that the money we use to buy a commodity is equal to the value, while other economists, other school of thought say no, it is only called the exchange value. When they explain by saying that if money is used to value commodities, then water should have been cost more than gold. In utility scale, water is ranked number 1, but in price scale, water is ranked last. Gold is costlier than water, but water is more useful than gold. But gold is, water is less cost than gold, and therefore, using this example, it can be stated that price you paid for a commodity cannot measure the value of that commodity. In economics, we call it exchange value. Now, basic economic problems. Every economic system, whether developed or undeveloping, whether classical or neoclassical or Keynesian, whether sociology or whether socialism or capitalism, they all face common problems, even individuals and businesses. Okay, now we want to explain some of the basic problems that face society. Number 1 is what to produce. Okay, what to produce. Societies and individuals and firms face this problem. What to produce. And this problem arises from the fact that there are two major types of goods to be produced. One type is called the consumer good. These are the goods that is directly consumed by the consumer and is ends there. And then we have producer goods. These are goods that can be produced and can be processed for further production to final or semi-final goods. And so every society, every individuals, and even firms facing the problem of what to produce. Having chosen what to produce, there's another problem of how to produce. This problem arises from the fact that there are two major methods of production. We have capital intensive production, and we have a labor intensive method of production. The labor intensive method of production is the type that employ more labor than capital or than machines. And in that case situation, in a labor surplus nation, you employ labor intensive method of production, unemployment will be reduced. Then the capital intensive method of production is the type where you employ more capital, more machines than labor, and the output will be faster and greater. And so in a labor surplus country, if you employ capital intensive, it will compound the problem of unemployment. And therefore every society decide how to produce the goods that have been chosen. And so the issue is either to reduce or to compound the problem, the unemployment problem. The next problem that face a society is for whom to produce, or how do you distribute what you have produced. Is it government or society or even individuals have play a role in distribution of goods that have been chosen and produced? Okay, there are so many ways government can do that. One way is to take more tax from rich and less from the poor, and provide services that both poor and rich can enjoy equally. For instance, if the government introduce progressive tax, meaning taking more tax from the rich than the poor, and provide free education, free housing, free transportation, free health, from which both rich and poor will enjoy, then the government is doing a redistribution for whom to produce. Okay, then the last problem is the economy growing? If the economy is growing, fine. If it is not growing, but you are producing, then something must be done. It's either the production is not efficient, or the population growth has outweighed the productive capacity. We have different types of economic systems. We have traditional economy, centrally planned economy, free market economy, and mixed economy. The mixed economy composed of all the three types of economy. Mixed economy is a type which I want to also particularly talk, is a type that combine both the centrally planned economy and the traditional economy and the free market economy. So in the mixed economy, it avoids the disadvantages of free market economy and the disadvantage of centrally planned market economy, while it enjoys the advantages of both centrally planned economy and free market economy. Now, let us go to the theory of demand. This model on this topic, we look at the concept of demand, types of demand, factors that affect demand, and demand schedule and demand law. Demand is defined as the quantity of goods or service that consumers are willing and able to buy at a given price at a particular time. So to define demand, the word willingness and ability must be mentioned, because one may be willing but you may not be able to buy. Okay, you may like commodity, but if you don't have the ability to buy, that's not demand. That is want. You want it, but you cannot buy because you don't have the ability to buy. Sometimes an individual may have ability, may be rich, but doesn't want a commodity or is not willing to buy. And so, willingness and ability to buy determine the quantity of goods or services that consumers can demand. Again, another concept in the definition of demand is particular time and particular price. At a time, the price may be constant, but when the time change, the price may change. The price may change with time. Okay, and then time dimension is very important. The ability to pay, the willingness to pay depends on time and the price. Sometimes the good may be desired, but the price is high or low. Okay, the price is high, it will discourage the buyer. If the price is low and the good is necessary, it may also increase the ability to buy. Now, we have demand schedule. Demand schedule is the tabular presentation of demands at the various quantity demanded at various prices. We look at the table 2.1. We have demand schedule for module of maize, for instance. Quantity demanded, number of modules per day. At 90 naira per module, the quantity demanded is 5 modules. When the price falls to 70, the quantity demanded increase. If the price falls further to 50, 30, and 10, the quantity demanded rise from 15 to 25 to 35 and to 45. This shows that as the prices decrease, the quantity demanded increases. And that leads us to the law of demand. Okay, the demand curve. Demand curve is downward sloping from the left to the right. You can see the downward sloping from the left to the right, meaning at higher price, the quantity demanded is low. When the price falls, the quantity increase. The price fall, the quantity increase in that order. Okay, this leads us to state the demand law, or the law of demand. The law of demand says that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. Ceteris paribus. That is, if all things being equal. Now, factors that affect demand. Well, several factors that affect the quantity demanded of commodities. A sudden increase in the price of the commodity means a reduction in the consumption power of the consumer as a result of fall in their real income. And so, price of the commodity is one. Like we have mentioned earlier, as the price rise, the quantity demanded will fall. If all things being equal, okay. But supposing the quantity increase, the price increase, and the consumer's income increase, the consumer may likely buy more, because as human being, our welfare depends on the quality and the quantity of goods and services we consume. The more we consume, the more is our welfare, our standard of living. And therefore, if the income of consumer increases as the price increases, the quantity demanded may increase. Then, income of consumer is another factor. Like I mentioned earlier, as the consumer becomes richer, his ability to buy rises, and hence the quantity demanded will increase, or vice versa. Prices of other commodities. Prices of other commodities can also affect quantity demanded of a particular commodity. In the case of substitutes, such as meat and fish, a rise in the price of meat will cause an increase in the quantity demanded of fish, because people who have been buying meat before will now move to go and buy more fish, whose price remain constant. On the other hand, in the case of complementary goods, such as car and petrol, those are the goods that must be consumed together to be able to satisfy a particular want. If the price of a fall in the price of car will cause an increase in demand for more cars, and hence a rise in the quantity demanded of petrol. If the price of car fall, more cars will be bought and more petrol will be consumed. Therefore, the cross elasticity of demand is negative. In other words, as the price of car increases, the quantity consumed of petrol will rise. Will fall. Will fall, because less car will be produced. Will be bought, and less quantity of petrol will be consumed. Population is another factor that determines demand. As the population of consumers in a particular place increases, the quantity demanded of commodities in such places rise, and vice versa. Weather. Demand for goods also changes with weather. For instance, thick and black clothes as well as hot drinks that retain heat in human body are mostly demanded in cold regions or cold seasons. On the other hand, light and white clothes as well as cold drinks are highly demanded in hot environments or hot season. In Nigeria, we have two seasons. If you recall, if you observe very well, you will see that in the rainy season, where there are more cold, people tend to wear thick clothes compared to the dry season around January, February. Tastes, preferences, and fashion. Some goods are fashionable at some times and therefore are highly demanded at that time. Similarly, if consumers change their tastes and preferences for a particular good, the demand will rise, and vice versa. Festivals. Festivities like Christmas, Salah, New Year, increases the demand for some commodities, particularly food items and clothes. Age structure. If a population contains more children than adults, that is growing population, the demand for children's goods will increase. On the other hand, in aging population, the demand for adults' commodities will rise. Government policy of taxation and subsidies. If government reduce tax rate, more money will be left with people and more goods will be demanded. On the other hand, if the government subsidize commodities, either the production or distribution, the price for such commodities will go down, and therefore people tends to buy more. On the other hand, an increase in advertisement, for example. Advertisement can increase consumers' preferences for a good and hence cause a rise in its demand by the consumers. Culture. So sometimes the culture of some people disallow consumption of some commodities. So the demand for such commodity will be low in such such communities. Types of demand. We have derived demand. This is the demand for commodities for the purpose of using it to produce other goods. For example, the demand for cassava is for the production of starch, gari, or cassava flour. Thus, the demand for cassava increases as the demand for cassava increases. Thus, the demand for cassava increases as the demand for starch, gari, or cassava flour rises, and vice versa. Now, joint or complementary demand. This is the demand for two or more commodities that must be consumed together to satisfy a particular want. For example, demand for car and petrol. They are joint demand. Increase in the demand for car will lead to a rise in the demand for petrol. Now we also have competitive demand. This is demand for goods which are close substitutes. For example, demand for meat and fish, tea and coffee, egg and beans, etc. An increase in the price of one will lead to an increase in the quantity demanded of the other. For instance, an increase in the price of meat will lead to an increase in the quantity demanded of fish, because meat buyers will now move to fish, whose price is constant. Composite demand is another type of demand. This is a demand for a commodity for different purposes. Example, the demand for salt for domestic consumption and for industrial uses. Now, elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of commodity to changes in factors that affect its demand. There are many types of elasticity of demand, as there are many factors that affect demand. In other words, elasticity of demand can be discussed with respect to each factor that affects demand. But in this lecture, we will limit ourselves to 3 types of elasticity of demand. These are explained below. We have one, price elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to changes in price. We also have income elasticity of demand, and then cross elasticity of demand. Then the degree, the coefficient is measured by dividing the change in quantity by the change in price. So we have 5 types of degree, or 5 degrees of responsiveness. Number 1, we have perfectly inelastic. In this case, a change in price has no effect on quantity demanded. You can see the graph there, figure 2.6, perfectly inelastic demand. Then fairly inelastic demand, that is where the change in quantity is less than the change in the price. Then we have unitary elasticity, where the percentage change in quantity is equal to percentage change in price. And then we have fairly elastic, where the percentage change in quantity is greater than the percentage change in price. Then we have perfectly elastic demand. In this case, figure 210, you see that the demand is horizontal. The demand curve is horizontal, meaning that the small change in price, which cannot be shown on the graph, lead to more than proportionate change in quantity demanded. The change is so large, you can see the bottom line, the change is so large that the curve is horizontal. Now, another module 3, theory of supply. Supply, we say, is the quantity of goods that seller is able and willing to sell at a particular price at a point. We also have supply schedule. Supply schedule is a tabular presentation of quantities and their prices at different levels. Look at the example below. Table 4.1, quantity supply of tubers of yams and their respective prices. If you look at that on the first column, the quantity of the price per tuber supply in naira, 10 naira to 20 to 30 to 50. The price per tuber of yam increased from 10 naira to 20 naira to 30 naira to 40, and so on and so forth. And the number of tubers of yam supplied rose from 20 to 35, 48, 50, and 63. Okay, meaning that as the price increases, the quantity supply also increase. So this take us to the law of supply. The law of supply states that the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, and vice versa. Then, if we present the the schedule, the supply schedule in graph, then we have what is called supply curve. And if you got 3.1, an individual supply curve, you can see the supply curve is upward sloping from the left to the right, meaning that at 10 naira the supply was 20. When the price rose to 20 naira, the supply increased to 35, and so on and so forth. Then we have factors that affect supply. Number one, the price of the commodity. Just like demand, the price of commodity generally has upward effect on the quantity supply. That means as the price of the commodity increases, the producers will be encouraged to produce more, and therefore they will supply more. Other factors that affect supply include cost of production, change in input price. Government policy, organization change may lead to higher cost of production for a firm. Higher cost of production may bring down the profit of the firm. Hence, a cutback on such product due to higher cost of production. This will reduce the quantity the firm can supply to the market and will shift the supply curve to the left. Change in the production techniques. A more advanced technique of production will always have an increasing effect on the quantity of goods that can be turned out, and hence the supply, the marketplace. Change in the price of factors of production. An increase in the cost of production, such as wages or labor, rent to land, and high cost of input factors such as raw materials, will increase the overall cost of production and reduces quantity to be produced, thereby supply will fall. Prices of alternative goods, like a competitive commodity. If the price of substitute goods falls as a result of fall in the cost of production, rise in its price, which make it become more profitable, or as a result of fall in its raw materials, then the producer will increase the supply of the substitute goods because it will be more profitable. Thereby, there would be increase in supply of substitute goods, while the first commodity, which it can be substituted, will fall in supply. Numbers of buyers and sellers. More buyers, more buyers mean more sellers, or more buyers in the market to encourage sellers to some supply. Then we also have abnormal supply curve. Supply curve, the normal supply curve is supposed to slope upward from left to right, but the abnormal supply curve now slopes downward from left to right. And that means the higher the price, the lower the quantity supply. And then the lower the price, the higher the quantity supply. You have it can be seen that the slope, if you see figure 2.1, sorry, figure 2.1, sorry. Well, we are saying that it can be seen that the supply curve slope downward from left to right, indicating that there is negative inverse relationship between the price and the quantity supply of the particular good. This is not in line with the supply law. The basic explanation for this relationship is that the fact that sellers will sell more and get more income. Thus, he would prefer to sell more quantity of the goods only if its price falls. Types of supply. Just like demand, we have types of supply. We have one, joint or complementary supply. This is the supply of two commodities from the same source. For example, the supply of beef and skin from cow, supply of palm oil and palm kernel from palm tree, and so on. Competitive supply. The supply of two commodities such that a rise in the production and supply of one leads to a decrease in the production and supply of the other. For example, an increase in the production of beef will lead to a fall in the supply of milk. This is because beef is only supplied from dead cow, while milk is supplied from live cow. And therefore, if you want to increase the supply of beef, the supply of milk will reduce. If you want to increase the supply of milk, the supply of beef and skin will reduce. Well, composite supply. This is the total supply of a group of goods who serve the same purposes. For instance, the supply of a pair of trousers, a pair of shoes, a pair of shirts, etc. provide a composite supply of clothing. For a complete clothing, we shoe, trouser, shirt, and even cap. Now let us look at the determinants of price elasticity of supply. We have one, time. In the short run, in a short period, in a very short period, supply is fixed and thus supply is inelastic. In the short run, supply of agricultural goods is fixed and hence their supply is perfectly inelastic. But in the long run, in which all factors of production are variable, supply is not fixed, thus supply is elastic. Cost of production to substitution. The ease with which one factor can be substituted for another determine the elasticity of supply. If it is easy to substitute one factor for another, then supply is elastic, and vice versa. Increase or decrease in cost of production can cause supply to change or to be elastic.